Hello, and welcome to Overcome a Mental Health Podcast, a place where you can share your mental health stories. I'm very excited for tonight's guest. I'm speaking with Jordan Turbyfill. Jordan is coming on to talk about some of his childhood experiences and how he was able to develop a mindset to overcome negative thoughts and turn everything into positive action through solid everyday routine. Jordan, why don't you just go ahead and get us started with your journey?
Travis, appreciate you having me on. So one of the main things for me, uh, growing up as a kid, my mom was a meth addict and alcoholic, and I never really understood that portion of it until I got to the age of like 17, 18. And at that point, I really just kind of started to fall into her footsteps by trying to chase pleasure over chasing purpose. And in chasing pleasure, I would essentially drink myself into a coma and black out. The first time I drank alcohol, I blacked out. Second time, I blacked out. And it was always very tough. Had a lot of negative thinking. I really took the whole situation as poor me, poor me, poor me, and just continued to drink until I got arrested and essentially, got a DUI and thrown in jail. And sitting in jail is where I really kind of slowed down my thought process and just kind of like looked around the room and gathered myself, you know. From there, I pretty much started my change of realizing the only way to prevent myself from continuing to go down that path and even go further down that path was to completely cut out alcohol. So immediately when I got out of jail, I haven't drank since. I'll be 9 years sober, November 20. Every year has been a massive year of growth for me. The first year was extremely hard. I had suicidal thoughts. I thought, more of the poor me bullshit, but this time I was just sober thinking it, and every year I feel like I've taken a step further and further in the right direction. Probably 3 years ago, I really started focusing on my daily routine and how to raise my frequency to where I can uh, higher that frequency before I interact with anybody. And being able to do that, nobody wants to go to the gym every single day. If anyone says that they want to go to the gym every single day, they're lying out their ass, straight up. I've been to the gym 90 days in a row, and on that 91st day, I sat in the parking lot for an hour trying to talk myself out of it, and then going back and forth with myself about whether or not I should go in. Eventually, you know, every time that you break that cycle of like just pushing through that mental pain, every time it gets easier and easier to break through. And that voice gets quieter and quieter. So to me, we got to like align our conscious with our subconscious, because you'll get in those interactions where your conscious is telling you to do something that you have planned, and then your subconscious will try and protect you and be like, no, you've worked hard enough today, no, you moved all these pallets of tiles, you can take a rest day today. But if you just continue to push through those mental blocks or your subconscious coming to protect you, you eventually grow and just continue to grow and grow and grow. So that's pretty much what I've done.
What
Go
do you
ahead.
do to push through those mental blocks?
A lot of times I'm just patient with myself. Sometimes I'll get a little hard on myself, but I would say too, there's in the past I would get really negative with myself, you know, and I feel like being negative about it is the worst way, because that negative will grow. What I like to do is I'll be hard on myself, but it's in a positive way. Like, you can do this shit. You did it yesterday. You did it the day before. Like, quit being a baby. Quit crying about it. Like, you can do this. You know. Before, I would sit there and just be like, you're a piece of shit. I would try and like get myself fired up in a way. But what I kind of realized too throughout this whole process is like, anger is a strength and like hatred is a strength that can be used as fuel, but eventually it burns out. And the thing that never burns out is love. And if you use like love and forgiveness, man, that's like a fuel that will just burn so deep and give you so much energy to do the things that you really want to do. So if there's like somebody motivating you, if somebody's listening to this and somebody's motivating you to like want to go work out because you hate them, forgive them and love them. And I know that's like the hardest thing to say, but once you do that and you just start loving yourself for forgiving them, you're going to see how much further you're able to push yourself compared to when you're just lifting because you hate that person. And I've seen it so many times, just me going to the gym when I first started. I had a couple like business relationships that kind of fell out, and that's what I would do. I would take their hatred towards me and I would be like, oh, I want to like destroy that person or whatever, and like I said, that energy will burn you out quicker than anything. So just go forward with love and kindness and forgiveness. And
Yeah, and that's honestly a hard lesson to learn. Like I personally have struggled with negative thoughts myself. And I
yeah,
can't tell you how many times that I've told myself, you're a piece of shit. Like you don't matter. Like nothing you do is good enough. And I
yeah,
honestly don't believe it was until the last year that I was actually able to turn those thoughts around and start building myself up. And it's just a work in progress. Like you have to work on it every day.
100%. It's something that like, and that's why I say the daily routine, because what I like to do daily is wake up early, get like burpees in first thing in the morning, so you're getting your blood flowing and just getting like a little bit of pump, and you start feeling better about yourself immediately. It's not something that I love to do, but I love the way that it makes me feel, and I love the energy that it brings me to, that I can offer everyone else around me you know and what you said, I used to struggle with the exact same thing. And when I first started this whole process, like, my relationship with my wife and I wasn't the most perfect relationship, and a lot of times I would find myself saying the exact same things that you're talking about, where I would be like, you're a piece of shit. You never do enough, and I'd just be beating myself down. And now in turn, I'm like if I need a second to like catch my breath, step out of the room, catch my breath, instead of having those type of thoughts, I'm like, all right, what else can I do? What else can I do? What more can I do? You can do more. I know I can do more. All right, let's do more. And I'll just jump up and start doing more. And the more I've done that over the past, I feel like it's, instead of me taking my energy and going towards the other person, or in this situation my wife, it has helped her to come closer to where I'm at, you know and it's helped her to do more. And like, she started her own business and she's been thriving in her own business. She's such an incredible mom and stuff like that. So
Sorry, I didn't mean you can
no, go
finish your
ahead.
thought. I
Go
was gonna
ahead.
say that's really cool to hear that like because you turned around and worked on yourself that your relationship grew like to become better. You became better
Oh,
partners.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And like, the hardest thing for me, because I did 6 years completely sober, but my mindset was still off, you know,
Hmm.
and I would still have those similar thoughts of what you're talking about. And I would also, um, just constantly like catch myself like saying the wrong things, or like lowering my vibration to go negative and join in the argument instead of being more solution oriented. I think I can't give myself all the credit. Obviously, my wife has been doing all the work herself as well, but I think as a man, we have to lead in the family dynamic. And when we do that, um, they're more likely to come closer to this side and be more positive and be more happy.
Now, if you're willing, I want to go back a little bit. If
Yeah,
you're willing to
absolutely.
take us back to your childhood, like with your mom being a meth addict, I'm sure it was a lot different than I would think. So, what did the normal look like for you growing up?
The normal for me was constantly getting evicted from apartments because my mom wouldn't pay the bills because she'd spend it on drugs and alcohol. It was, me and my four other siblings or three other siblings living in a tiny one bedroom apartment with no furniture and pretty much all of us having such a small amount of food in the house that if any one of us ate too much food, the rest of us would pretty much beat the crap out of the person who ate too much food. I was walking to, probably like 2, 3 miles to school every day because we didn't have a vehicle or gas at the time or whatever the situation would be. Um, what else? I mean,
So,
constantly just constant my mom would come home 3 in the morning, cracked out of her mind, drunk as hell, beating the living crap out of all of us, bringing men home that would be abusive to her to the point to where, when I was 10 years old, I slashed my first tire, and that was a guy that had put his hands on my mom. Me and my two older brothers went and slashed all of his tires, and then went to his other house and like threw a brick through his window and slashed his other tires. And we just had a lot of anger and were filled with uh, evil because we didn't know any better, and it hurt us a lot, and we didn't know how to take that pain and channel it into something positive.
yeah, it sounds like you just spent a lot of years like in survival mode,
Yeah.
trying to work your way through life.
Yeah, 100%. And like, it all really hit me a lot my senior year of high school because, I hadn't seen my mom because my brother and I we used to fight like crazy. I don't know if the camera can see that, but I got a scar from like probably like here all the way down to here.
Yeah, I can see it.
And my brother and I, who were closest in age, we used to just beat the living hell out of each other. I mean, I should say he would beat the living hell out of me, and I would just try and get as many punches in as I could because he was, just twice my size always. And once that happened, uh, my dad got custody of my brother and I, so we moved back in with him. And I didn't see my mom for 4 years, and then all of a sudden she just shows up at my high school and just like walks on campus, and she's like all cracked out of her head, begging for money and stuff. And it was the hardest thing, to see. It's drugs and alcohol might make you feel good, but they'll rob you of your life and of everything you've ever loved, and not just for a small period of time. They'll rob you of it forever, and they'll rob you of the time with your kids, and you'll never get that time back. So the best way for me, like I said earlier, was like all I wanted to do was like numb myself, and I never fell into doing meth or doing really any hard drugs, but alcohol got a good hold of me for 5, 6 years, and I really drank a lot and would do the dumbest things and just be, just completely embarrass myself and, just crush my own confidence, make me feel even worse. So then when I would be sobering up the next couple days, it would just be so many negative thoughts of like you're a pile of crap, you're going to hell, or just all the worst things that you could say to yourself.
So, you'd mentioned before that it was a DUI, and since that you got arrested, that's kind of your breaking point of like, I need to be sober.
Yeah. It was actually my second DUI.
It was your second DUI.
My first one, I quit for a year, and then I started up again quickly. Once alcohol gets a hold of you, it's a slippery slope, and you'll go from, I would tell myself, all right, I'm going to drink only one day a year on my birthday. And then a month later, I'm going to drink, once a month. And then, a month after that, oh, I'm only going to drink once every 2 weeks. And then it's once a weekend. And then it's I'm going to drink. It ended up being like pretty much every day. I had a bottle at home of, and I can't even remember what I would drink. I would just get like a big handle of liquor and a 30 pack of beer, and I would come home. As soon as I'd get home from work, I'd take a couple shots and then open a beer. And 4 hours later, I'm like 6, 7 beers deep on a Monday night when I have work on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's crazy. And was that a nightly thing?
But yeah, that was a nightly thing, 100%. Then on the weekends, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it was 10 times worse. I would be 10 o'clock in the morning taking shots, shotgun and beers, sometimes shotgun and multiple beers in a row, and then just blacking out and just having people tell me what I did the next day and telling me all kinds of crazy stories. And it was like, man, this is terrible. And then eventually I got my second DUI, and I had to actually get sober before I was before my court hearing because, well, I didn't have to, but my attorney told me that it was in my best interest to try and lesser my jail time to get sober and show that I've been to meetings every day. So that's all I cared about. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this just so I can get a lesser sentence. And because it was my second DUI and both times I blew over 3 times the legal limit, they pretty much threw the book at me, gave me jail time in downtown LA in California. And they put me on a bus and shackled me up. And, I was like, never, the only times I've ever been in trouble with the law was both times I got a DUI. So I wasn't the type of person that was out doing things to end up there
Yeah.
besides drinking. And once I was on that bus, it was just like, holy shit, like,
Yeah,
damn, where did I get what did I get myself into, you know?
yeah, it's like an awakening of some sort.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, the scariest thing there was like, I'm 5'7". At the time, I was probably like 150 pounds, and there's probably 120 people at a time that go through intake, and they had us in this really large room that was like shaped like a rectangle, and it's just all walls. There's nothing else in there, and so they had everyone just sitting around with their backs up against the wall, waiting to go through the whole process. You know, you start looking around the room and it's like, man, I feel like I don't fit in here. Like this is crazy. But here I am. And I'm just sitting there talking to myself saying these things like you deserve to be here. Like I know I know you're looking around and you don't think you deserve to be here, but you definitely deserve to be here, you know? And yeah, it was a shocker for sure.
Yeah, that'd be rough. I can't even imagine. But when you started to like rebuild your mental framework, is there like a kind of a first, what were like some of the first small things that you remember actually making a difference?
So actually, one of the things that was uh, one of the biggest changes or things that somebody said to me that really clicked was actually through the DUI program in California. They assigned me to a class where I had to go sit and listen to a doctor at a hospital. And that doctor didn't know who it was at the time, but the doctor that ended up doing it was like a neurologist. And so he took it upon himself to like explain to us, look, your brain, you control your brain. Your brain is the most powerful tool in the world. There's nobody that can recreate a brain, but you have complete control of your brain. So, and he showed us a couple things. Like one of the biggest things was think about somebody who's drunk. You know, drinking lowers your ability to control your brain and control all your functions, like your reactions. You know, and for example, if you're driving down the highway and you're drunk and you see a cop on the side of the road with his lights on, you're immediately going to focus on those lights because of what? You don't want to get pulled over again, you know? And that's why you see so many cops get rear-ended on the highway is because whatever you focus on is what you're going to tend to veer towards. So if you want to be successful or you want to be positive, you got to focus on being successful and focus on being positive. And all the shit that's in your past, you got to just, it's okay to glance back, but just think like that's why the rear view mirror is small. Like just glance back at it. You don't need to sit there and focus on the rear view mirror. If you're driving, looking in the rear view mirror, you're going to get in a car accident. You're going to kill yourself. So like, when he kind of worded it like that, it was like, damn, that's a great way to put it. So I started to just really focus on what I could do every day and what I can control. And that's, there's going to be people that are, in life that are going to try and backstab you or take you down or all the worst things. You can sit there and try and focus on it and prevent it, but focusing on things like that is going to attract those type of people around you. You can focus on being the best version of yourself, and you're going to attract people that want the best version of themselves. And then you're just going to, vibe off each other and continue to grow. You know what I mean?
It's
So
kind of crazy, like how those vibrations really play a role into that type of situation too.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because I can recall like people in high school, which was a long time ago for me now, but I can recall like being in a room full of people and be like, you know what, this kid just gives me like there's something off him. I don't want to be here anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it just makes you not want to do things and that's, I'm a business owner now. And one of the things that I realized before I became a business owner was like, everything starts from the top and trickles down. So if you have an owner who's a drunk or somebody like that who's kind of being the anchor and pulling everyone else down, well, the whole business is going to go bottom up and sink. So to me, the best thing I feel like I can do for my guys is be that positive, hardworking, showing up every day. No job is like too big for me, and just have that mentality because if I'm that way, everyone's going to see that type of energy and they're going to reflect it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I operate my business as well. And I love the guys that I have working for me now, and they're all great family men that bust their ass to try and provide for their kids and try and be good parents and role models.
That's a really cool style of leadership though, is
Yeah,
being willing to like get down there and actually do the same work that they're doing. Essentially, it builds trust in relationships.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, it just builds. That's the other thing too, is like working like physical labor, doing it alongside somebody will bring you so much closer. Because when you get to those tired points and you start seeing everyone pushing through those tired points, it's like, damn, all right, we're like family now. You know what I mean? So I love that part of doing, hardwood and top.
So there's somebody like that's listening, that's kind of the headspace of, just surviving, just going through the motions. What's one thing they could do today to start shifting into living more positively?
I would say the first thing I would do, like say for instance, if I was talking to myself 10 years ago, the first thing I would do is say, do 100 burpees straight and tell me how you feel. Tell me how much more pride you have in who you are. And then just make it a routine. Make it a daily routine and don't push it off to the end of the day. Do it in the very beginning and start every day by adding positive things that you do every morning to stack wins. You know what I mean? And if you wake up, you make your bed. Say you wake up at 5 a.m. at your alarm clock. There's one win. You make your bed. There's two. You read your book or your Bible or whatever it may be. Read something for yourself. There's three. You do your burpees. There's four. Take your shower and you get clean and presentable. Get dressed nice. There's five. And then you go out and interact with people and tell me how much more attention you get because of you're going to be drawing people towards you instead of bringing that negative energy, which negative energy is going to repel anyone who has positive energy. You know what I mean? So if you want to attract those higher type positions or jobs or roles in life, the best thing that you can do is raise that vibration and stack those wins.
That's awesome. I love that. Like a lot of good pieces of like information to take in from that.
Yeah.
I love it. It just, I
Yeah.
know I'm
You got to,
repeating
I mean,
myself, but it's like
you got to do it,
it's
you
all
know?
really good. And it's getting in that mindset though, just to repeat it and have it become a habit.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah. One of the other things that I tell myself too, because, I'm human. I'm not perfect. I've missed days. I've had days where my mind got the best of me still. But even then, it's get right back on the horse. You know, it's okay. You missed a day. Who gives a shit? Get right back on the horse and keep going. Because if not, you're gonna fall way back into that person that you used to be that you hate. You know. So the best thing that we can do when we falter and we have that day where we miss, just get right back on the horse. Forgive yourself, love yourself, get right back on the horse and keep riding. And I think I think everyone should do that every single day, you know?
Yeah, and that's from personal experience. I can say that's one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn was how to pick myself back up because I have a constant battle with anxiety, and it just I get in these loops where I just keep repeating myself and like do the same stuff. But to actually be able to fall over, have an off day, as you said, and to pick yourself back up, that takes a lot of grit and resilience to be able to do that. So I
Yeah. That's
applaud you and anybody out there that's able to do that.
yeah. I would say that's one thing that I feel like that's probably one of my biggest strengths is having a lot of grit and being persistent. Um, I've been, some of the stuff I've told you, I could tell stories for, years on some of the things that I've been through or seen or done to myself. And no matter what, I mean, you got to forgive yourself, love yourself, and just continue getting back on the horse and just keep riding. And one of the things that I feel very strongly about is we're not we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So the best thing that we can do is the most that we can do today. And with that being said, like if you haven't done your burpees today, get your burpees in. Let's go. And just watch how much better you feel. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. And was there any point like in your life during your journey that you were um I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, that you were afraid of kind of repeating how your childhood was with like your own children?
yeah, percent, 100%. Uh, I think that was I've always been kind of afraid of. Well, I shouldn't say afraid. For a long time I used to operate in that way with fear. You know what I mean? But that's another thing that I like to push a lot is like no fear. It says it so many times in the Bible, no fear. You know what I mean? God loves you, God loves all of us, and none of us should have any fear except for God. I mean, no parent is going to be perfect in their teachings, but the imperfect teachings are perfect because it's God's plan. And that's why, today I've been able to like forgive my mom and I love my mom for the time that I did get with her. And she taught me so many things on what not to do. And she's made her and my dad have made me such a better dad to my 2 year old that I mean, check on my Instagram. I'm always posting videos working out with him and, doing push-ups with him on my back and stuff like that and just trying to instill in him that hard work ethic and that, positive mindset. And yeah, I mean, he's the laughiest, giggliest, tough little dude I've ever met. So, it's such a blessing.
That's awesome. And too, like that age is a fun age, and
But
you
yeah.
can tell that they're. I mean, even before that, the personalities are starting to like develop. But you can when they start
Yeah.
speaking and doing all that stuff, you can a lot comes out.
Yeah. He's like really trying to speak when my wife and I will like ask him a question or something like that. He'll go just like all gibberish, but it's the funniest thing because you can tell he's trying to have a conversation with you, you know? It's so cute. But
And
yeah, I
it,
mean, kids are the biggest blessing that we could have. And the it's the other thing too is like they repeat everything, you know?
mhm.
That's why I started to repeat what my mom taught me was because that's all I knew. That's all I grew up watching and seeing every single day. But we can always break those family traditions and make our own by going through the pain of doing the work internally on ourselves every single day.
What does your relationship with your parents look like now?
I talk to my dad every single day. He's like one of my best friends. And I mean, he's grown a lot since we were kids. He obviously went through a lot with my mom as well. And, obviously he knew everything, whereas us kids didn't really have a full understanding of like what was going on. So he had a couple years where he lost everything, but then he, eventually got us back. And, he's probably one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my entire life. He's like that 4 a.m. guy since I could ever remember. Never misses a day, even on Sundays. And my mom, I've written her a few times and I talked to her on the phone. She's in prison now in California for manslaughter or murder. And you know, it's a tough pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, I had to kind of break that relationship and just leave it to letters because she was essentially just begging for money and kind of throwing off my vibration every day by calling me nonstop. And as painful as it is, I owe the best version of me for my family that I started, and that's what I choose to do. And
Well, that's
I love my mom, I forgive my mom, but at the end of the day, she's still struggling with addiction and even in prison because they still get whatever they can to get themselves high in prison, and um,
that's rough, man. Like,
yeah,
sorry to hear that, and it's like one of those things that I can understand that you have to do what you have to do because you can't have like the negativity affect you.
yeah, 100%. And like some people, I tried to be big and strong and those type of things, but when somebody's calling you nonstop and the only thing that they want is money, and you can tell that they don't care about you and they don't care about your family that you started, you know it's kind of like yeah, it doesn't matter if it's your mom, your dad, your kids, your wife. It doesn't matter who it is. Somebody's treating you that way. You have to be able to recognize it and do what's best for you and the people closest to you. The people closest to me is my family that I started, and they definitely bring me lots of joy and happiness every day, and I owe that to them to return the favor and refill their cups of happiness and joy as much as I possibly can.
I love that. It's like the family in general. Like it's kind of on the same page as you. They give me like they're my motivation a lot of times to wake up in the morning and do what I do and
Oh
continue
yeah.
to do what I do.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, my family is definitely my why. And yeah, we're so blessed today. We're so blessed with today with the ability to have this conversation, to try and build our own, to try and seek any and every opportunity that we possibly can to become whatever version of ourselves that we envision. You know what I mean? God is so great and we are so blessed. It's unbelievable.
I 100% agree with you, man. Like I just have like a few kind of last questions here because you've answered most. Even though I feel like I could talk to you for hours,
But yeah, 100%.
we've talked about multiple things. I'm like, oh, I could go like so many different directions here. So, Jordan, what beliefs did you have to unlearn to finally move forward with your life?
That's a great question. I feel like I've had to unlearn a lot of things, but it's hard to really pinpoint. I would say one of the biggest things is probably just I used to hold grudges a lot and have this like pain of like I need to get this person back, you know. But once I learned forgiveness and the power of forgiveness is in the forgiver, you really, once you learn to forgive, you really release that pain onto the person that's done it to you. And then it's up for them to forgive themselves, and instead of holding grudges, just forgive, you know.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to learn too, because I
But
feel
yeah,
like in my life I look back and it's almost easier sometimes to hold grudges and just to not talk to that person than to actually find it within yourself to forgive them and actually speak about it again.
yeah, yep. And yeah, I would say, yeah, it's, it's definitely one of the hardest things. It's one of the hardest things to learn, but it's very powerful.
So, kind of just a one last major question here, and then just a few follow ups. What's your vision? If we were to check in with you in 5 years, what impact do you hope to have made with your, just your basically positive mindset and teaching people this?
I would love to be coaching and mentoring, um, physical, mindset, fitness, and nutrition, coaching people. I've been coaching people currently, but I would love to be, you know, coaching thousands of young men and helping them to forgive their past and moving forward and to just build that best version of themselves to where they can give it back to society and to the people, obviously closest to them and being a valuable asset to their family.
It's a really cool way to help people out.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the most important things for me too is like dropping the vices. If I can get 1,000 people to get sober and to start seeing their true potential, I feel like so fulfilled on my purpose that, um, obviously there's no stopping there, but I've already had 3 people that I've helped get sober, and just the first person gave me so much gave me so much purpose, and that's one of the main reasons why I come on the podcast and try and speak this into people. Is it's not for the money, it's not for anything, it's to just help other people to see and hopefully get sober and become the best version of themselves.
That's awesome, and it's you're the reason. Like stories like yours, what you bring to the table and offer my listeners. It's the reason why I keep doing this.
Awesome, man.
So this is a kind of a generalized question, and I ask it on every podcast. I like to hear the different responses I get. What do you think is the biggest stigma in relationship to mental health?
Hmm. Biggest stigma. I feel like most people, hmm, most people lack action. You know, there's so much knowledge out there and so many people who are looking for help. They put their action into research instead of action into internally, instead of doing the work for themselves. But really, it's so simple to elevate your frequency and better your life. It takes time, but like we're not promised tomorrow. So if you get started today and you start putting in that action internally, you're going to see more beautiful tomorrow. You know what I mean?
I love that because you can sit and read self help books every day, all day, and you're in your mind you're thinking this could work, but until you actually take a step out and trust to do yourself to do the work, that's when you're going to see the full change.
100%. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah, and like every day when you're stacking those wins, it's only going to build more confidence for you to be able to stack more wins tomorrow, you know? And every day that passes of stacking wins internally that you chose to do, you know what I mean? It's going to build massive amounts of confidence internally. So that's
100%.
what I always push my clients to do. That's what I'm pushing y'all to do.
Awesome. And the is there, let's see, no, thinking back, I'm getting my questions like, or I do it in a specific order. Getting tongue tied here. Where can people find you?
Quickest way to find me is on Instagram. My handle on Instagram is contract.flooring. And you'll see on there, I'm always posting videos of the work that we do with the flooring. Also, a lot of the stuff that the family stuff, working out. I'll post videos of the workouts. But if you message me on there, let me know you're from the podcast or you heard this podcast, and I'd love to work with you and help you grow.
And last thing, is there anything that we have not discussed that you would like to bring up?
Man, yeah, you know what? Politics. Let's bring up politics real quick. I just
Let's
want to
do
say
it.
this. I just want to say this. It's the easiest and most proven way to defeat your enemy is divide and conquer. Okay? So we all got to look past the division. We all got to look past the parties. We all got to come together. We all got to look internally on ourselves and build ourselves so that we can all be a better part of society for each other.
Very well said. Very well said.
Awesome.
There's a lot of division right now.
Yeah, it's division and distraction too, you know.
Hmm.
Don't get too caught up in things that are out of our control. We can't get too caught up in things that are out of our control.
Awesome.
Control the controllables is what I always tell myself, you know.
That's one thing I've had to learn. Control
But
everything
yeah,
you can. The rest of it
yeah,
just throw out the window.
yep.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your story and what you're doing to help people out. Like I said before, stories like yours that keep me going.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Thank you to all that are listening. Best thing you can do is subscribe, follow, share, do whatever it is that you do to get the name of this podcast out there. Thanks again for listening. Until next time. Lost my button.